Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we'll cover the hot issue, the ongoing hot issue of the GERD, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. As the crisis went to the Security Council in response to the request by Egypt and Sudan, because Ethiopia is on the verge of starting the second filling of the dam. Deliberations of the Security Council of meeting on Thursday, 8th of this month, the deliberation, as expected, I myself as expected, did not come out and will not come out with a decision to be adopted by the Security Council, because the issue is sensitive between the two countries and the third, Ethiopia. Anyhow, I'm happy to host in this episode two gentlemen. One of them is actually specialized in the conflicts. He's Dr. Zuhair Bashar. He's specialized in his PhD and from England and the resolution, how to resolve conflicts. And this is a conflict, as we know. The other is something technical. This is the most important person in this arena. Is Dr. Osman Al-Tom. Dr. Osman Al-Tom, he worked since graduation, about some 40 years ago, or more than 40 years ago. He worked in the Ministry of Irrigation, and in particular work in the dams, of different dams in the country. And he culminated his career as the Minister of Irrigation of Sudan. So he will definitely be the right person to speak and to give his judgment on the technical issues on this sensitive and political issue. Okay, we'll start by Dr. Zuhair Bashar. Dr. Zuhair Bashar, as you know, that on Thursday, yesterday actually, the Security Council started deliberation on the issue of the Renaissance Dam crisis in response to a request by Sudan and Egypt, joint request by Sudan and Egypt, so that the Council can come out with a resolution which can be adopted to stop or to advise on what to do, especially from the side of Ethiopia. But as we followed the deliberations, it almost was deliberation from different representatives of the different countries, and it seems that it will not come up with a resolution to be adopted. Even if it comes with a resolution, it will not be as we expect, or Egypt expects. It will not be fully in favor of Sudan or Egypt, because the Security Council cannot indulge itself on issues, because there are certain crises all over the world on the water problems. Can you tell us or elaborate on this issue of the Security Council to mediate or to issue or to adopt a resolution?
Thank you. Thank you very much, General Omar. Thank you for inviting me to this episode. I would like to send my gratitude to the viewers. And with regard to your question, yes, as you said, I think there was no high expectations with regard to the outcome of the Security Council session of yesterday. Why? For me, even Sudan and Egypt, when they opt to raise this issue and to submit it to the Security Council, I think the main objective was to put pressure on Ethiopia to come down to negotiations and to resolve this issue peacefully. It's true that the Security Council mandates, or it's mandated to look into the peace and security issues that threats might pose threat worldwide. But at the same time, as you correctly put it, the Security Council cannot set a precedent to involve in a regional issue like this, because it is a huge issue, and at the same time, the issue of water is everywhere. So if they start to intervene in Ethiopia or in the Nile Basin, then they have to intervene everywhere, and this is enormous, huge tasks that they cannot be able to address. So for me, the basic objective is to put pressure on the Ethiopian to opt to negotiations. Bear in mind that Sudan and Egypt have tried their best. If you go back, they have signed the Declaration of Principle in March 2015. Again, the same issues were taken to the African Union, and the African Union have done nothing for the last 7 years. And now they want to put pressure on Ethiopia and on the African Union as well by taking this to highest level like the Security Council. And I think the message has been received now by the African Union and by the Ethiopian themselves. And I expect for the few coming days, there will be a kind of movement within the circles of the African Union to address this issue.
Okay, that's very, very good. This is coincides with the expectations from the Security Council. Okay, now we go to the important issue to Dr. Osman Attom. Dr. Osman Attom is a scholar actually in the dams, in irrigation as such. He works throughout his career since graduation from University of Khartoum on the issue of dams and water flow. And so, Dr. Osman Attom, welcome. We are happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
But we want you to give the viewers, in very simple terms, the issue of the second feeling or the first feeling.
Okay.
Or you can start prepare the people, the viewers, by give an overview perspective to the whole issue. Then you culminate or you end with the second feeling. If it happens without notification or it is not at all, what will happen to Sudan?
Thank you very much. Just a quick background. The issue of building hydropower dams in Ethiopia is not a new issue. It has been part of the study by the Bureau of Reclamation in the report of 1964. And the Sudanese group has been discussing this under the leadership of Saghirun al-Zain, rahimahullah, for some time. At that time, I was a very young engineer at the time. And generally speaking, hydropower dams in Ethiopia, in general terms, are favorable to Sudan because they don't consume water, they use the water, and they regulate the flow of the Blue Nile and as well the main Nile. And so it gives Sudan the chance of expanding in irrigation, in navigation, in hydropower generation, in many aspects. Coming very quickly to the current condition, in February of this month, of this year, a focus group was formed in the Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources to look into the issue of if there is no agreement and there are no information from Ethiopia, how would Sudan tackle this matter? Because Sudan is directly affected by any storage in the GERD, as Roseris is very close, and Roseris is the backbone of the irrigation schemes in feeding from the Blue Nile. So that group sat down and looked into the worst condition. The worst condition at that time was if this flood is, the coming flood is a low flood. It's not a high one. And if, for that reason, Ethiopia is going to release the least amount of water from GERD. they have studied this. They have 3 models, one European, one American, and one developed in Sudan. Those 3 models have been run, and the result was that some water has to be stored. Roseros Dam should not be drawn down to the minimum operating level of it, as usually the case during July, August, and September. So some water has to be stored in Roseros, and about 1 billion cubic meters out of the 6 billion cubic meters, the capacity of Roseros Dam. And some water has to, again, for Jabal Awliya should not be drawn down to the minimum operating level. About 600 million meter cube per day should be kept there. For taking those measures, they make sure that, or they made sure that there is no difficulty in having the drinking water, and there is no difficulty in satisfying the irrigation requirements in the whole system. So that was taken at the time. Now, and this has been followed throughout from that time, updating their mitigation measures as new information becomes available. So now the situation is better than what has been looked at the worst condition in February. First of all, now we know that from our forecast that this flood is going to be above average, which is good. And the other thing is that the White Nile is bringing more water than usual, maybe the highest in the record for the similar days. And the third thing is that the High Aswan Dam is nearly at its maximum level. There is more than 140 billion cubic meters stored in the High Aswan Dam. Even Adbara River is bringing water now because Tekazi is releasing a lot of water. It was not generating for the last period. So the whole situation is converging to a better situation. And now water, drinking water is secured, water for irrigation is secured, and maybe the Sudanese could easily see it, those who are on the banks of the river, that the levels were reasonably good and there is no suffering at all for irrigation or for hydropower generation. So these are the measures that were taken. The shortage has been conveyed to the hydropower generation. And if the the thermal generation was in a good condition, maybe people would not have felt it. But because that one is not, has got its own problems, the inclination was to generate through hydropower generation. This resulted in pulling down the level of Marawi Dam, which is the main source of hydropower generation, to very low levels, close to the minimum operating level. And this is why we are having difficulties in hydropower in power generation through May and June, and even now July.
So you mean, Dr. Almatom, that those people are a little bit worried about, okay, the second feeling is now becoming de facto. We have to accept it. Yeah. Actually, yeah. As Professor Yasser, Minister of Irrigation, said, already the second feeling started in yeah. May. In May, yeah. when they did the building, yeah. this wall, yeah. Already started yeah. the feeling. Yeah. Yeah. So you are saying also, can you repeat that? Yeah. Now you say speculation that this time the rainy season in Ethiopia will be above the average. Yeah. So it is good. Yeah. If it's above the average, it's better to block to. Yeah,
this is the time. This is the right time to have this second filling. You stated something very important. Actually, Ethiopia took the decision of starting the second filling in May. When they started building the midsection, okay. raising the midsection from its level. They needed to raise it by 35 meters, from 560 to 595. So and they started raising it. Now they have built about 14 meters above the level that was in May. So, and there are only 2 openings which are releasing water. People may see them in the TV. These are the only two openings that are releasing water. Those two openings can release a maximum of 80 million cubic meter per day. But the flood could easily be 800 million cubic meters. So it could be 10 times.
10 times.
So what is happening is that the water, the water going through the openings is going downstream, but the extra water is building up in the reservoir. So, and they are constructing. So the construction is going on, and the water level is rising.
Okay.
So there is some sort of a competition. If the water rises so quickly because of the rains, then they have to stop the construction, and extra water has to flow over this midsection. There are speculations that we have people who are following this now, and their outcome, the recent one, and they are updating it every now and then. Maybe Ethiopia may not be in a position to raise the whole, to build the whole 35 meters. Maybe they are going to build 25 meters or something like that, and then they have to stop it so that the flood can go over it. For us, Sudanese, and this is my personal thinking, we would like this stage to be completed, because we don't, if some of it is postponed for next year, we don't know what would be the case. Maybe we are going to face a dry year, and in that case, Sudan will suffer. So let us hope that they can finish it, and the water can follow. The other thing, which is very important, if they can reach the level that is 595, then next year they will be in a position to start generating from the whole system. And when they start generating from the whole system, we are in a very good situation.
Safe, because water is flowing.
Water is flowing. So July, August, September, there is always a lot of water coming in.
To generate money,
To generate
power.
for them, and to generate for us from Roseris, and to generate from Morevi. And to go to the High Aswan Dam as well.
As well, okay, that's very good. Okay, Dr. Zuhair.
Yes.
Also something in your domain of the conflicts. Egypt and Sudan, they claim that Ethiopia breached the DOP, Declaration of Principles, especially in the article which talks about completion of the studies and exchange of information about the safety, about many other things mentioned in the DOP, Declaration of Principles, signed by the three presidents of the three countries. So what about this issue, about breaching this from the side of Ethiopia? Sudan and Egypt are claiming that Ethiopia breached the DOP, signed by Desalegn, at that time Desalegn, and President al-Bashir and
Sisi.
Mubarak, I think Hosni
Sisi.
Mubarak.
Sisi.
Sisi?
Yeah.
Sisi, okay.
Yeah. Sisi. Yeah. Thank you, Engineer Amr. Let me say something before that.
Okay,
I think the two countries, Sudan and Egypt, are motivated by some fears with regard to the water. It's their concerns motivated by water scarcity. If you look to Sudan, since 1980s, most of the Sudanese are coming closer to the river bank. These people were driven by drought in the western Sudan, driven by the livelihood, driven by wars, civil war or tribal wars, and these people now are concentrated on the river Nile. And this is going to increase the consumption of water, whether for drinking or for other uses, let alone the use for the irrigation. That's one thing. For Egypt, the only source of life for Egypt is the river Nile. And if you look to Egypt, it's 40% of its grain is imported. So they don't have. much water to irrigate and to produce food.
Only Nile.
Yeah, that's the only source of irrigation water. And it is also expected by 2050 that the population of Egypt is going to double. And the same thing, the Sudan population will double, and the Ethiopian population will treble. So I think these are the real fears that driven this conflict. Going back to your question with regard to the principles, yes, I have seen the principles, declaration of principles. If you look at it, it's very good and it's very promising. And I'm so surprised why the Ethiopians are deviating from this principle. If you look to the first point in the principle, it says cooperation must be based on mutual understanding, mutual interest, good intentions, benefit for all, and principles of international law. So the principle of international law, it talks about the mutual benefit, mutual use of water. Now people are, at these days, are not talking about use of water. They are talking about the uses of the resource, whether the water or energy or whatever coming out of this water. So it is more developed than in the previous, when they are just distributing the water among the riverians or the countries that on the line of the Nile. So I think according to the principle, if you look also to the point number 10, it also speaks about principle of peaceful settlement for conflicts. If conflict emerges, they have to peacefully settle it. I think the concern of Sudan and Egypt now is not about the great resistance dam itself and how it is going to be harmful to Sudan or Egypt. For me, it is rather about the technical mechanisms of how to manage this dam, and for the Sudan and Egypt to be part of the technical management teams. If they have that opportunity, then all these fears will go away. Because you cannot trust another country to decide on your issues. For example, when you are going to fill in the dam, what is going to be the consequences? So the filling is going to have consequences on Sudan and going to have consequences on Egypt. For example, this year it might not have consequences, but next year or 10 years later, it might have negative consequences. So you have to have a joint teams, technical teams, that can decide on these issues, and at the same time to develop mechanisms of conflict settlement. If we disagree on this, where are we going to take it? Should we have a joint committees to resolve it? Should we take it to African Union? Should we take it to Security Council? Where are we going to take it? So I think the modalities of the conflict resolution is an issue here, rather than the dam itself. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. That's very good. That's very clear.
If you can allow me just to add to this. Actually, we have lost a golden opportunity. At one time, Meles Zenawi offered that 50% of the cost should be borne by Ethiopia, 30% should be taken by Sudan, and 20% of building gear should be taken by Egypt. I think that was a golden opportunity, since if you are part of the cost of building the dam, then you can easily say that I have to be part of the operation of the dam.
As an owner.
As an owner of the dam. Unfortunately, at that time, Egypt refused. And I don't know why Sudan followed in the same steps. This was a very big mistake.
It's a big mistake.
Yes, at that time.
From our side, that's why I remember I wrote an article about it.
Yes, yes.
I heard Meles Zenawi.
Yeah.
He mentioned that. He said, I'm really astonished why Sudan is skeptical to accept the idea of the good,
yeah.
the dam.
Yeah.
Whereas he said, I expected Sudan to contribute
Yes.
as an owner by 30%.
Yes.
So if he has bad intention,
Yeah.
it's by logic.
Yeah.
If he has bad intention, he will
couldn't
not
have
allow
made
you
this.
to be a partner.
Yeah.
When
Exactly.
you pay 30%, then you'll be right in the heart
Yeah.
of the dam,
Yes,
to
yes.
the operation
Yeah.
and everything, and there could have been no
Yeah,
issue
yeah.
about.
Yeah, yeah, we tried later on in the DOB. People tried to go around this by having a tight group that can look into the issue of operating the system. But this is facing some difficulties, although in principle the agreement is there, but how to form it, what are the terms of reference for that one, what are the powers, up to what extent. But hopefully, Engineer Omar, and this is just a hope for myself, hopefully in the future, maybe not in our time, but later on, if the three countries could reach the situation when they can manage the whole system from Lake Tana, Lake Victoria, up to the Mediterranean. Nature is like that. Nature does not recognize technical, political borders.
Yeah.
So if, and this is done in the states, the Tennessee Valley are doing that with Mexico, with Canada, and with all this, even in South Africa, Southern Africa with Lesotho and others, even in Mozambique and the others. This is practiced, that try to manage the river as one unit. And hopefully, if this can be reached in the future, it will be for the benefit of all. Because then you can maximize the benefits and minimize any side effects.
Yes, sure.
And as the doctor said, now the issue is sharing of benefits, sharing of cost and benefit, not apportioning of water.
Yeah.
Because apportioning, today you give me a certain amount of water, the population grows, the demand grows, then I'm going to ask for more.
Or more, yes.
And there is no more.
Actually, the quota is okay, Dr. Afatom. I have two questions in one actually. Some people, they say that Ethiopia might or it has the intention to store more than the capacity or more than what it needed. Some people, I know the answer, but the Ethiopia might store more than what they need in the dam. At the same time, I want you to answer my question of why Ethiopia is reluctant and skeptical to sign, to write a document. They agree to exchange. They agree.
Very glad that you
Yes.
asked it. Actually, the answer for both of them is one answer.
Yes. Okay.
Ethiopia does not, although in normal cases, when you are negotiating a certain issue, the ultimate goal is to reach to an agreement.
Yes.
Ethiopia is saying that no, not an agreement, but just guiding principles. And this is very flexible. Guiding principles that you can change them. It's just guiding you. So I cannot understand that the stand of Ethiopia, why they are insisting that they don't want to sign a legal, a whole agreement. But to my knowledge, or at least what I have heard, they are worried about the future dams. As I mentioned in the 1964 study for the Bureau of Reclamation, there are 4 dams on the Blue Nile. One of them is the border dam, which is now the Gel. But there are other 3. So the Ethiopians, they think that by signing this, Egypt will not allow them to build any of the other 3 dams. When this issue came, Sudan gave them a very good answer, that according to the international law, you have freedom to build as many dams as you would like, as long as they are hydropower dams, because their effect is not that much. The only condition is that should not affect me significantly. So I need the information. How are you going to do that? I need to see how are you going to operate them and all these things. then in that case, if it's okay with me, and maybe it will be okay because they are hydropower generation dams, then they can go with it. That is what is the more storage that is expected. So maybe when they build those other 3 dams, maybe GERD will be as a base flow dam. That is, in power generation we have base and we have peak. So maybe the amount of water, and this, as I said in the beginning, has been studied long ago by the ministry. So maybe the flow from GERD will be a continuous flow. 6 turbines releasing 130 million meter cube per day. So the Nile, or at least the Blue Nile, will be just like any channel. And this will give Sudan the chance to maximum generation from resources, expand in Sinnar, maybe build other dams like Sabaloga and others, or at least small dams, and Marawi. So the generation will be to the maximum possible, and the extension of irrigated land will be as we demand. And that, because Egypt is fearing that, why not be joint projects? Where Egypt is there, Ethiopia is there, the land is Sudanese, but the workers and the beneficiaries could be from Egypt, from Ethiopia, even from the Gulf. And Sudan could be a green country, and it could really be the basket for the food for the world.
Yeah, that's exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very clear. Okay, Dr. Zuhair.
Yes, please.
We have another issue, maybe Osman Tom, or Dr. Osman Tom can share, but it has some element of conflict, because there are certain talks about, as we all know, that the water distribution of agreement of 1959 between Egypt and Sudan, no other country was involved in this. No other country was involved, okay? So this would give, they gave Sudan the 18.5 cubic meter, billion cubic meter, and Egypt 55.5. There are some talks. The Ethiopians, if they talk about this share of this, and to them they say they don't have any share of this quantity of water flowing in the Blue Nile. I know Dr. Osman Tom, he knows about the technical part of it, of Ethiopia, but as an agreement, can it be amended or changed? If the Ethiopians, they claim that we want our share, we want to have this quantity to be shared by 3, not 2. Why Sudan and Egypt?
Thank you for the question. Of course, the agreement should be reviewed from time to time because the circumstances change, especially the environmental circumstances and the water flow and all these things. So the agreement was signed in 1959, and now almost more than 60 years. So, and at that time, at least Sudan was under colonial, and Egypt, to some extent, was under colonial as well, but they was sharing colonialism on Sudan. And Ethiopia was not part of that. This is a principal point. They can raise it. It should be revised because they were not part of the agreement, and it should be revised because of the time length, 60 years, and situation have changed. So they have the right to ask for that to be changed. And it has to be, I think for the last decade, there is an agreement for the whole riverian countries, isn't it?
Entebbe.
Yeah, Entebbe agreement. And Sudan and Egypt refused to join that. Yeah, they refused to join that. I think that agreement is another good chance to have an amendment on this. But the problem is Egypt is very reluctant because they have gained a lot of benefit in this agreement, 55 point something billion.
Five,
Yeah. And not only that, they receive another 6 billion from the Sudan as a loan. And this loan continues for 60 years. I'm not sure when they are going to
fund
pay
for
it back. Yeah.
Loan went with the, gone with the wind.
Yeah, when they are going to get it back. So I think for Sudan, they have to, 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 to deviate from having an identical position with Egypt because our interests differ. Yeah, our interests differ. We have to look for our national interest, not to connect our position closely with Egypt. The connection of position with Egypt, I think now, is one of the reasons that complicated the situation. Yeah, the complicated
Because we have
situation.
different effects.
Exactly.
Egypt and Sudan, they have different effects.
Yeah, and by the way, there is an international trend for the formation and putting guides for distribution of water and using of water resources. And we have the formation of the World Water Council in 1998. And after that, we have the World Water Commission that put guides for how to distribute water or how to distribute the benefits of the water and how to share these benefits. Yeah. I think there is, if you look into the international treatment and international treaties and international guidance with regard to the water, there is a very clear guidance. And the only thing is needed is for the Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia is to sit down, to abide by that guidance, and to reach an abiding legal agreement. I think there is no way for Ethiopia to accept this, to escape this. There should be an agreement, yeah, but they have the right to negotiate the previous agreements, to revisit those agreements, to review it. They have the right, but they don't have the right to escape.
This
Yeah.
complicates things, Dr. Alberto.
Yeah,
What can you say about this?
yeah, let me.
When can they take
yeah,
let me agree. Let us take
No. I think there are some points that needs to be. This is exactly in my area of interest. The 1959 agreement is an agreement between two countries for the water reaching them at Aswan. It is not, and it is for the whole Nile. It's not for the
Blue Nile.
It's not for the Blue Nile. So it is not directly connected to the issue of, in any way, it is not connected to the issue of GERD. The other reason it is not connected to GERD because Ethiopia cannot use the Blue Nile waters for any reason other than hydropower generation. Because the Blue Nile is going in a gorge, a very deep gorge. Starting 10 kilometers after Bahar Dar, it enters into the gorge. And then it goes through this gorge until it reaches the border with Sudan. There is no way, if you look in the map or anywhere, it is all a plateau around it, sometimes 2 kilometers deep. So they cannot use, and this is known long ago, as I said, from the study of 1964 by the Bureau of Reclamation, that the 4 dams which can be built in the Blue Nile are only for hydropower generation.
Only.
You cannot use it for irrigation. The plateau is too high to raise water up to that level. So I think partitioning of water is not linked at all to what is happening in GERD now, because, as I said, that is for the whole Nile, first of all. Secondly, it is the water reaching Aswan. The 18.5 for Sudan is measured at Aswan.
At one.
And the 55.5 is measured at Aswan. So whatever, and to be frank, Ethiopia is using the Blue Nile because they have Fincha, where I have seen it by myself. Many fields of sugarcane. In Beles, they have areas of that. They are using some of that water because that is not counted as part of the 84 billion cubic meter that is reaching Aswan.
Okay, yeah, definitely. It's
So for them, I think it's not fair to introduce, and even the DOB did not mention at all talking of partitioning of water. And as I said before, partitioning of water is something now in the past. People are not talking about partitioning of water. Just I said that if you give me a certain quota, tomorrow I'm going to ask for more because my need. So let us use the water together. And this is why I put the issue of that, why not joint projects? If you need, what do you need the water for? For food? Then there is a chance to work with Sudan for that. You need it for agriculture, you need it for hydro power generation, there are chances for that. So the inclination should be take the water as it is in a regional context and make use of that.
so they have to think positive. This is a very good positive integration
Yeah.
between the three countries
Yeah.
to resolve the issue. Each country to benefit from its
Yeah.
resources.
Actually, Engineer Omar, if you look at what is the underlying cause of all this? It is the suffering of the people.
Yes.
And people are suffering because of lack of electricity and lack of food.
Food.
And this can easily be resolved if the three countries could come together and share those resources together. As I said before, if they can manage the whole system of the Nile as one system, they can share many things. Crop zoning, some things should be put in this area. Sugar should not be, for example, in Sudan, it should be in Ethiopia or in Uganda. Something like that. Wheat could be in northern Sudan and maybe part of Egypt and so on. This is what is called crop zoning.
Crop zoning.
Yeah, so you put the right crop in the right place. And you start to forget the borders. Europe has forgotten their borders completely. Why not us? It is a hope. It's a dream. But someday it will come true.
It will become whether political governing systems that the three countries are harmonized or in harmony. Definitely, what you are saying is suggesting this integrational projects.
By the way, if you look to the what do you call it, the Declaration of Principles, it stated it clearly. For example, they are talking about principle of development, regional integration, and sustainability. And they said the goal of the establishing of the dam is power generation, contribution in economic development, and promotion of cross-border cooperation, and regional integration. It's very clear. Yeah, it is very clear. It also stated that principle of not causing significant harm. Yeah, do no harm to to any country. So the principle, I think, is very good, and it can take the three countries further. But for me, the conflict and the escalation of the conflict is coming from something else. It's coming from perceptions that and the issue of the Ethiopian Grand Resistance Dam is taken high in Ethiopia as something national, patriotic. And at the same time in Egypt, for them, they describe Nile as life or death. Life or death. So this extremism have made the issue highly polarized. And there is a kind of polarization that come in, political polarization, I would say. So that is why we have seen the language of the two countries is going into escalation, and unfortunately, Sudan, instead of being a kind of a mediator, it looks their position is going towards Egypt more rather than to mitigate this kind of polarization. So I would say Sudan should take a middle position and bring the two countries to try to fill this gap and to make the mitigation of this conflict and to be the mediator. And I think for some time ago, Sudan was accepted by the two countries to be, to serve this.
Yes,
But unfortunately now.
about the polarization,
Yeah.
this reminds me of I think it's a mistake, I think.
Yeah.
One of the bad effects which aggravated the whole political situation, not technical, is that taking the issue to the Arab League, this we lost the African countries, definitely. We lost any support of African countries. This issue, even the Security Council, when it refers in its deliberations, all of those who spoke yesterday, they talk about African Union. Nobody did mention any about the Arab League. When Africans are very sensitive about this Arab issue.
Yeah.
Because it's
And,
the history.
The history. So
yeah.
it's
And
not
at
a
the
good
same
idea.
time, Sudan and Egypt are part of the African Union.
African Union.
What is the
Why-
necessity
why
to take
going
it to
to another
yeah,
okay,
another
this
regional organization?
This is okay. Again, before I go to Osman, to my also small question about.
Yeah.
Do you think is there any possibility that some people are calling for Sudan? Osman maybe also can answer it. To withdraw, some people are calling that Sudan and Egypt should withdraw from the DOP signing. DOP signing.
Yeah, Declaration of
Is this a good idea, or will it solve the problem? If they withdraw at this stage, now everybody, yesterday the Security Council, all speakers they spoke about the DOP. They have to abide by the DOP. They have to do that. So it's not somebody is advising the government to withdraw from their signature or to the DOP. What is your opinion because I will ask Tom another technical question together with this question.
For me, that is to withdraw is not a good idea
Not a good
because because the declaration of principle have already set a platform for a peaceful negotiation and peaceful settlement. So we should promote it, develop it, not to withdraw from it. That's one thing. If you withdraw, I think if Sudan and Egypt withdraw, they will give more excuse to Ethiopia, because that's just we will give an excuse to Ethiopia to stop negotiation at all. Because how can you ask for negotiation, peaceful solution, and you withdraw from this declaration of principle?
So it's not a good idea.
It is not a good idea at all. It's not logical.
This will definitely jeopardize the whole issue.
Exactly. And Sudan and Egypt are trying to build a case by going through a peaceful solution. Declaration of principle, going to the African Union, now going to Security Council. So you are trying to build a case in a peaceful way. How can you go and withdraw from? If you withdraw from the principle, declaration of principle, that means you are going in another direction of forceful using of force, maybe. Yeah, especially if you look to the Egyptian speech and threats. If that is the withdrawal is combined with this kind of speech, then it means
so
they
you
are
lose
going
the
for
whole international community. Okay,
Yeah.
Dr. Osman,
Yeah.
I think the thing.
This is-
I think the doctor put it very, very elegantly. What would be the alternative? The alternative is war. Do we need war in our quarter?
No.
If there is any war, it will be in our land,
Sudan.
in Sudan, and maybe the Ethiopians can retaliate by hitting resource dam or affecting resource dam in one way or another. Historically, water issues are never solved by force. Always they are solved on the table. Look at what is between Jordan and Israel. Look at what is between Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. It is there. You have to sit and solve it. So this is the only way of doing things. And in that one, you have to have the carrot. You have to give the Ethiopians, the Sudanese, and the Egyptians something more. And this is what we hope the international community could help them. Help those three countries work together and have an economic bloc together. Satisfy the different situations from within them, and even for other countries as well.
That's very good. now, Dr. Osman Tom is also will give you the last chance. We have maybe we have 2 minutes, 1 minute for you just to give your advice to the government, our government, how to go about this on the legal issue as a conflict specialist. In 1 minute, what is your advice that the government to take what course?
I think the government has to be patient and go through this peaceful settlement, the line of peaceful settlement. They have to build on this declaration of principle. They have to build on their connections with the African Union. They have to put pressure on Ethiopia through the Security Council or the Europeans or whoever. So they have to put pressure and make their position clear.
But keep always on the negotiation.
Keep always on the negotiation. At the same time, they have to deviate from threats. You shouldn't go.
And you have to do our
homework, exactly.
Not necessarily
Exactly.
with Egypt.
Yeah.
We have different issues.
We have different issues. And at the same time, we have to focus on the technical issues rather than the political. Politicization of the water source is not going to take us anywhere.
Okay, Dr. Osman Tom.
Yeah, more or less, I think more or less the same. I think the negotiation process has to continue under the umbrella of the African Union, but I would like to see Sudan to stand firm that facilitators have to be on board, especially the United States, the European Union, and the United Nations, and hopefully the World Bank, and if possible South Africa, if they can help us that, because they have experience in that. So that, I think Sudan, if they can get this from the Security Council, then that would be a good achievement.
Good way out. Okay, thank you very much, dear gentlemen. We covered this issue in a very wise and good steps. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last 1 hour or so about this important issue. We hope to see you next week, also maybe on the same issue if things are developed to something good or bad. Anyhow, we hope it will be something good. But thank you, dear viewers, both for having spent us this 1 hour with these two gentlemen. See you next week in another issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.